All right, everyone, it's time to talk about the democracy protests in Hong Kong. I support them. I oppose the illegitimate commie government of China. The government of Taiwan, technically speaking, if you look at the history of the formation of Chinese communism and Taiwan as a separate independent state, there are still claims by the Taiwanese government that it is, in fact, the government of China. That is, that the communist movements were an upswelling of terrorists, essentially. They can't legitimately govern, that mainland China is essentially under hostile occupation by an internal force of communistic terrorism. There's something to be said for acknowledging the legitimacy of that claim. Now, you can't act as though that's the case on the world stage. China's got the second largest economy in the world. You have to at least somewhat play nice with China because it exists, it has nukes, and it declares itself legitimate. There's the possibility in the future that democracy breaks out in China and improves the situation. Until then, all we can do is quietly nudge the Taiwanese government and say, yeah, we kind of understand the situation and it sucks. Don't worry, we'll continue to defend your existence. Because basically they would have to take over in the wake, potentially, of any problems in China leading to an overthrow. Anyway, I support the Hong Kong protesters. And here's the thing. The U.S. and its government, which we pay to represent us, should arguably support every pro-freedom movement around the world. Now, I'm not saying, oh, well, we invade to liberate people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying ideologically. Pay them lip service, help them if possible to do so, with one exception, and that's if they get so violent that it delves into terrorism. Like, the U.S. has supported terroristic groups before, like the fucking Al-Qaeda born out of the Mujahideen that were backed, and Reagan called them, like, similar to America's founding fathers, because they fought communists and stuff, and U.S. leaders met with bin Laden and shit like that. With the exception of groups like that take people hostage and do crazy shit, we should support every other group that opposes communism and other forms of authoritarianism worldwide. I do believe in that spirit of American exceptionalism, that variant of civic nationalism. I think it's perfectly fine. It's also the norm for powerful nations throughout time to follow sort of that basic idea. Again, with that one reservation, if the Hong Kong protesters were setting off bombs and taking people hostage and doing crazy violent shit, that would be something where you stand back and you say, and you just remain mum and you don't involve yourself with the situation. Unfortunately, the U.S. government throughout maybe the last half century pays more heed to and supports ideologically more groups that bomb people and shit like that than groups like this that march peacefully. Part of it is the U.S. government is already in a dust-up with China over these trade deals. Right now, we've relaxed a few more tariffs. Right now, the U.S. and China are taking a few steps back from sparring and sort of getting a little more breathing room in order to continue negotiating, which is good. And by the way, Trump doing a very good job in North Korea. Right now, Kim Jong-un keeps firing off short-range missiles, hoping for a response, and he's gotten none. That's what we need to do. Continue to ignore him. Wait till he comes back to the table. The sanctions are biting enough. He'll eventually come back to the table. Let the ROK take the fore. Let the South Koreans primarily begin their negotiating process again. The U.S. takes a back fucking seat. That's the way to go. That's what Trump's doing. It's de-escalating the situation and hopefully eventually will cause lasting peace. As far as China goes, it's very funny to watch hundreds of thousands of Chinese troops drawn up on the border of Hong Kong. And there are people in the U.S., and I talk to them online and shit, these self-professed leftists. They're like, well, bash the fash. Totalitarianism is bad. I'm totally anti-establishment because Starbucks tells me so. And then at the same time, they back this action. Like, oh, damn those goddamn fucking protesters in Hong Kong, capitalist stooges. Oh, yeah, it's okay if the Chinese go in there and, with 100,000 or more men and, basically kill everybody. That's a good thing because, it kills some capitalists, I suppose. They don't care if there's mass death. They really don't. They don't see human life as having any real intrinsic value because they're communists. Very interesting. Those evil capitalists are always causing violence. Hey, let's crack some fucking skulls, man. By the way, most of them, they're not able to even stand on their own because they sit in their fucking basement swilling Mountain Dew. That's it. The average self-professed communist is not exactly the most physically fit individual I've noticed. Even these Antifa members, it's really funny. Like that one dude hitting the bus, the short bus there. It was like, I think Antifa versus short bus. He hits it with the hammer and falls down. It was really, really funny. Oh my god. Yeah, and half the time they're anemic because all they eat is soy, and then the other half of the time they're bloated with Mountain Dew. It's funny because they project that off on every other group of people, like with their memes, and yet that applies most easily to Antifa. It's really funny. But we should ignore the Chinese government. Right now they're condemning Washington. They're like, oh, we condemn your, what was it exactly? They said that we were backing the breaching of the rule of law, and basically we're horrible people and we're fomenting problems in basically a Chinese province. Meanwhile, the reality on the ground is the people of Hong Kong are the ones protesting. The Chinese government is drawn up ready to potentially kill large numbers of people, or at the very least, I guess, drag them off to commie re-education camps. So you've had a little bit too much to think. It's funny, because I think I'm probably viewable in Hong Kong, but I know I'm not in mainland China for the most part. It's also very funny. Some of these sites that I use, actually, you can interact with people in actual mainland China, like in Beijing and shit. And then on other sites you can't. It's like the smaller sites fly under the radar of the censorship in China or something. It's really actually kind of weird. I remember ICQ chat back before I destroyed it, the online chatting service that is. Before I fucked them. Before I fucked their website over and caused them to drop the online chatting service because it was just a troll fest. After years of effort, which was very fun, and before that I could talk to people in China there. I had several what would amount to pen pals actually from China at the time, and they would get nervous. Like if you ask them questions about Chinese, like the Communist Party, something, I don't want to talk about that basically. Because even the email has gone through, potentially for censorship purposes, they can get in trouble, actually. So if you were to say, like, remember Tiananmen Square and start fronting them, like, screenshots of the Wikipedia article, oh my god, they'd freak out. It was actually funny. I think I did that once to one of these people, and they were all, like, fucked out about it. And it was funny because I remember seeing a post, I can't remember where I saw this, where some Japanese person said, oh, if Chinese spammers have gotten your email and they're sending you shit, you just send them this and they'll go crazy. And it was like a list of like terms in Chinese and English about like liberation and democracy and stuff. And apparently, like, if they get that, they can get in trouble. Just for reading the email, they can get in trouble potentially because of the automated nature of censorship, which is what, by the way, the commies that run big tech are trying to do here. The social credit score system that's been implemented by China is really dystopian, but it's really not that different from what Zuckerberg's been talking about. It's almost identical. It's almost like China borrowed big tech's idea from Silicon Valley. Very funny. Just to fucking ignore the communist government. Fucking ignore the commies. You know, they're not capable of governing. China's a paper tiger anyway. I've warned of it before. People have all their money invested in China. I wouldn't want to be invested in China right now, especially with this trade war going on. If there's a recession, it'll be made in China was the big headline. Yeah, but it will also come home to roost in China. And it won't just be a recession. It'll be far, far worse than that, far more long-lasting. That's about all. Peace out.